Welcome to Tech, Tesla, and Trends. Tonight, Tesla Semi. The delivery event was quite impressive in my opinion. I know that there are the GLG, Tesla Q types out there that are going to be coming up with all sorts of reasons why the delivery of Tesla Semi isn't the most revolutionary. I love using that word. In this case, it's actually true. Semi to hit the road. Not just from a Tesla perspective, but from an actual Class 8 rig perspective. When we consider the nature of not just the particulates in the air that are ejected from semis, and especially the older ones, some of the newer ones definitely have a lot more emissions control and are far cleaner in that regard. However, there's always issues. And maintaining that is a very difficult process, to say the least, from what I've heard from diesel mechanics that I've spoken with. It can be kind of frustrating and irritating, and many of them would just rather bypass instead of deal with sensors and other things that go wrong. So looking at that particular issue, that's kind of what drove the whole Volkswagen Dieselgate and got us Electrify America, non-working, partially working, quasi-working charging network that is more covering our butts than real function. And I think that's what's different about Tesla in this regard. The whole reason that Tesla built the Semi has nothing to do with covering one's butt, nothing to do with trying to make amends for some wrong that's been done by Tesla, but rather to make the world a better place. And it is clear from the presentation that that is exactly the goals that were in mind as the team undertook the design and test and everything else that they went through, right down to the last 500-mile run with 4% of the battery remaining. Very impressive. Kudos to the team. That is an accomplishment and a job well done. I don't know how many of you have ever driven that Donner Pass and watched the semis as they're creeping up that and doing their best, or coming down and just praying one of them doesn't break free, or seeing actually when they hit the pit. It's it's pretty crazy. Anyways, none of that is the future. As we saw in the presentation tonight, the Tesla Semi accelerated up Donner Pass. And when it reached the bottom, they pulled in to check the brakes and they're cold. That is impressive. I know from a standpoint of even just driving down in a regular gas vehicle, car, driving down that when I hopped out and checked my own vehicle's tires, or the rims, you could feel some heat coming down on that. So for Tesla to be able to accomplish that is a feat in and of itself. And the regenerative spike on that sucker was quite impressive. That will make for going up and over mountains a very useful process and be one less impediment. I think the next most amazing thing in that whole process is the decoupling of two motors and just driving it down the road on one motor after it's up to speed. I know it's not a new process and that there's others that have done that before, but it is the first time that I'm aware of that this has been done on any Tesla vehicles. And it is impressive how they've managed to accomplish it, that it spins up and is engaged before the current or the drive motor is at its peak. So it never maxes out. You'll never notice it. It's as seamless as just acceleration is needed to be, which is a true accomplishment. That makes it a smooth experience for the driver. And I think that is ultimately one of Tesla's big win points. When the driver is able to feel comfortable and just enjoy the drive, it is an accomplishment. And that's something that Tesla has achieved with its vehicles from all the way through. It's one of the points that Elon's constantly asking, and ensuring that people are thinking about is what's the customer's experience going to be? How are they going to perceive that? How is that going to impact them? And as you walk through and focus on the details that matter to those that you're delivering to, you cannot help but create a product that is going to expand the minds of those that use it. I saw a great article. Well, I don't know if it was an article or a meme. I think it was more of a meme, but it essentially said that Tesla drivers should drive the competition at least once a year to remind them why they drive Teslas. And probably not a bad idea from that perspective. Looking at all of the other details that I saw there, overall, they posted the sped up unedited video for that entire 8-hour trip. That's going to be useful. I'm sure we'll see some good analysis by several other channels, and those that are seeking to find fault will obviously find some way. I'm certain of that. But I did have a couple of things that I noticed weren't present in the presentation. I saw no mention of FSD or of convoy mode. And it also looked like the screens were not quite updating as it's driving. So there's probably some beta software involved in that. So perhaps not as production in that regard. We'll see. That could just be perspective for what's going on with that particular rig, and there's a lot of things and little tweaks that go on in the early production models for any vehicle. I mean, all you have to do is bounce through online and see Lightning drivers who don't have their screen and are still stuck with air conditioning in the middle of winter. These are the sorts of things that happen. In Tesla's case, at least, it's fully functional. It's just not updating and showing information, and that's unacceptable. There's room for improvement, and it's a over-the-air update, plain and simple. And that's something that Tesla has down in spades. So looking at, let's see, what else did I note on there? One of the things that I was the charging process, and that at charging stations that they're going to have Megapacks at that location, probably solar panels or other things as potential charging capabilities for the Megapack itself. But having a Megapack on site where semis are charging is a brilliant plan because of the amount of energy required when you're looking at a 1,000-volt system is that's impressive. Especially one of the bombshells though was that 1,000-volt architecture and the revelation that it's going to be part of Cybertruck. And I think that right there is, in my book, the final confirmation that I know that there have been some that have been speculating, it won't be up to the specs of what was promised. And there may be some areas where there's not quite full delivery on the specs, because sometimes things just happen. But in this case, I think going to that 1,000-volt architecture is pretty much a guarantee that we're going to see 500-mile range on the Cybertruck. So that's a big win for everybody. In my mind, that was the confirmation point. Just because you're not going to put 1,000 volt system out there if you're not going up to 500 miles. You can get there on if you're only doing a 300-mile version, you're not going to go to a 1,000-volt system. Anyways, looking at some of the other things, I did have to laugh when Elon called the Semi a step change. That's an understatement. It is absolutely, when I say I love saying it's revolutionary, that it truly is. From a perspective of the cost of operation, from a perspective of ease for the driver, from the perspective of no compromising on overall available weight that's being towed. It's from a perspective of it's going to fit within the U.S. and probably the EU most likely, with having about a 13-foot tractor wheelbase. There's at every level this truck is hitting the check marks in a big way, and I truly believe that we're gonna start learning more and more as we start seeing these trucks roll out to other vendors. And I truly hope that we're able to see, or that Tesla's able to deliver that possibly 100 that was mentioned in that court filing. I still have some major reservations on that particular statement, but even if it's just the 15 going to Frito-Lay, it's a very big step forward for the Tesla Semi, and it will be a major improvement. Another item was the one-touch suspension dump, which makes it a whole heck of a lot easier just to get the trailer on and off. And that's, that whole process is time-consuming for a driver. And, making it as simple as possible. Again, that attention to the customer, the driver, in this case. And also, the company that owns the truck, that, speeding up that process of putting the trailer on and taking the trailer off and moving, shifting, that whole process, it adds time to the overall delivery process. And, the old saying, time is money, in this case is true. The more time it takes to shift and move and get things to where they need to be, and then to load it on and load it off, and it's definitely, there's a lot of good that's going to come from just the speed of being able to do that. The operational expense aspect of this, though, I am very much looking forward to seeing what. And I really hope that Frito-Lay or Pepsi is willing to share some of their initial findings with the rest of us. I don't know that they will, but the rough back of the napkin numbers seem to indicate it's at least twice as good as what they're currently running. Let's see here. What else from my notes? Yeah. Anyways, they're essentially going to be using a very similar cable to the V3 for the V4 chargers. There's a couple of, that's not news per se. I've seen that elsewhere before, that it's going to be liquid cooled. So, there's confirmation there on that front that is indeed the case for the charging aspect of it. Drivetrain is, it benefits from the Plaid designs, but is not a reused Plaid. So, there's clearly innovation has occurred within this process, and the fact that it's doesn't seem to be impacted by water, as some of their testing seems to very much indicate. And overall, it appears to be a very functioning semi truck, and it is a heck of a good looking truck too. And so I really believe that we are looking at the future of trucking from a perspective of about 60 to 80% of all truck driving that occurs on the roads will be replaced by that. And if Tesla is able to bring to pass their 50,000 trucks by 2024, I think that will indeed be doing the impossible and making the bears out there and the Tesla Q folks that are going to claim that, oh, it's only handmade and just two delivered, whoop-de-doo-dah, it's still just a fake bit of vaporware. Whatever, Gordon, or whoever decides to make that statement. You guys can continue to delude yourself and accuse the rest of us that are watching and watching this occur that this isn't real. But the reality is visible each day. And as more and more semi-trucks appear on the road and are purchased and delivered by others, when they finally... That is the other item. I remember there was one other item. Purchasing a new semi-truck. Good luck. With orders off right now. And when it finally comes back online, I do not believe we are going to see 180K for the 500-mile range. I just do not believe that's going to happen. I think you're going to be seeing something significantly higher. And the reason for that will be cost of operation. With a payback in less than 2 years, any company that is, has a functioning brain cell amongst them is going to say, oh, yeah, we'll take 10 of those because it's a no-brainer. So as the Frito-Lay and all of that is documented and gets into the broader knowledge of the trucking world, this is truly going to cause demand to go through the roof for the Tesla Semi. And that's why I believe when they turn the orders back on, it's going to be easily into the 200K plus range. And that will be worth checking out. For tonight, I look forward to seeing you in the comments, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Have a good one.